I wanted to start off this piece just using a single brush stroke really to kind of capture some energy. So just using a wide brush, putting down a single stroke, and then using some of the line painter pens to flick tiny bits of pigment paint into that water and allow them to kind of spread out, and then just basically leave them to dry. So the idea is that you're starting off with a fairly abstract background, but that will help to sort of shape the dynamism of the piece later on. When that's dried, I've then outlined the shape that's been left by that sort of chaotic drops of paint. And the idea behind that is just to kind of emphasize the chaos, the edge of that kind of paint, and those sort of spontaneous marks and little incidental marks that just kind of happen by accident. So that gives a kind of solid shape then as well. So it's it just kind of makes it stand out more and gives it more emphasis. And then to play around with the idea of the translucency of the paint. The pigments have mixed with water and become, you know, sort of really light and translucent, is to create almost like a flash of colour behind that looks like maybe a thick brush stroke. Sometimes dabbing down the ink and sometimes just kind of scribbling in quite roughly, and it creates a bit of an illusion, because the solid colour then disappears behind this translucent colour, making you think that the translucent shape is then solid as well. So it plays around, and obviously it gives it a different kind of energy as well, with the flash of paint running in a different direction across. So using a reference of a hummingbird, I tried to create a really dynamic drawing, just a simple graphite drawing using the Derwent graphic pencils, just trying to make really quick gestural marks rather than trying to catch all the detail of the bird itself. So this is where we can really sort of have fun with the pens as well, flicking the ink and using the direction of the composition so that there's a flow to those movements as well. So I started off here working with the line painter, the white line painter pen, just to kind of shape the body and the chest of the bird there, and just give it a feel like it's a solid object and it's a form in front of that shape. And then a lot of it is trying to keep that energy as well. They're a graphic pen, but they can be used in a very painterly way, so in a very kind of rough way, and still keep that energy. I've tried to sort of allow the paint in the pens to kind of move around in the same way that the background and the flash have moved around as well. Trying not to embellish too much, but trying just to suggest areas, add little bits of detail, and to work with both the abstract elements and the sort of figurative drawing, so bringing sort of a bit more body in and a bit more form into the shape of the bird, and literally sort of brushing some of the paint with your hand that lands down on the page. You know, the nice thing about the line painter pens is that they go down wet, and there's a moment where you can kind of steer the paint around, whether you're using, you know, the side of it. You can use a brush, you can even use the palm of your hand, or even the side of the pen itself. And then going forward, adding small directional lines, continuing this theme of energy and movement. Just trying to find curves within the composition and in the shape, both inside the body of the bird and outside as well, and these abstract elements. So the idea is that you're drawing the sort of energy of all this movement in different parts of the drawing itself. And then I've used the graphite line maker pen to add some sort of finer details, just to give some feel of the textures of the bird. So just little accents of feather shape on the tail of the bird at the bottom, just those sort of parallel ridges that you sort of see on the detail of a feather. Just giving tiny bit, not getting too bogged down with detail, but just getting tiny bits of tiny elements of the bird there, just to suggest that detail exists while the rest of the bird is in movement. And then finishing off really just looking at the overall composition and drawing in some more sort of lines of energy just in the white spaces of the page, using the line painter and the line maker pens just to kind of follow those sort of the flow of where the wings have been, where the bird's moving, and where it's kind of trailing off, just to kind of balance the composition.